Hello, and welcome back. This is Into the Dungeonverse Week 2, Episode 10. I am your host and guide, Mr. Adam, and this show is brought to you by NewMinds.tv and New Minds Enrichment. You can see I'm rocking my Camp Pursuit Brain shirt right now. NewMinds.tv holds all of the episodes of this show, so if you're hopping in and you want to go back and see where we're at or where we came from, you can find all of those on NewMinds.tv, but it's not just Into the Dungeonverse. There are tons of other shows out there. Mr. Dorian's Steam Train, Steam in Espanol with Catalina, Kristen's Parent Power Hour, Around the World with Mr. Walter, our From the New Minds Vault, and of course our day opening and closings brought to you from Ben and Justin, respectively. So those are all on newminds.tv, available for you forever. You can watch them at your leisure whenever you want. So it's good to see you all again. Thank you for coming back. I'm glad that you are here today. We're going to be getting started with our quest very soon, so make sure you have your pencil, your paper, your randomization tools, and everything you need for today's quest. Now, if you are new and hopping in and you're like, oh no, I don't know what any of that is, that's okay. Grab a piece of paper, make up a character name, put it up at the top, write hit points 20 out of 20, and then we'll start you today. That's totally fine. You can pick things up as you go. You'll need a coin or something to randomize some certain elements of our game as we create this. So I did have some issues with sound balancing yesterday, so please let me know if at any point you have any issues hearing me. Drop it in the comments. Hello, Shayna, good to see you. I see hi from New Minds Enrichment, but I don't know which New Minds Enrichment it is. Sometimes we forget to log out. Alright, we're going to hop over to our quest page. We're going to hop over to our quest page and get started. Alright, so before we get into the actual story, we have our methods of randomization. If you're new to this game, I do have it covered up by my face, but I can tell you it says randomization. You have different methods you can use. You can use 1, a coin toss, 2, a standard die like you might find in Yahtzee or a board game laying around the house, a d20 like is often used in role-playing games like Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons. And then finally a randomization table, which we have shared in previous episodes in our comments, but I will show it to you as well. You can make this of your own, or you can print off the PDF if you have access to a printer at home. So there are choices available for you. So our methods of randomization, we have difficulty, and I will always pop these difficulties up for you whenever a challenge appears. As we continue to grow and evolve, we'll have more resources available for you. Anytime a challenge pops up, this is going to tell you what you need to do to be successful, or and also it tells you what you need to do to be successful, and then I will tell you what the result is of your failure. And of course, you get to help a little bit with the storytelling as well. You actually get to... Mr. Walter, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. So there's our difficulty. If you ever want to reference that, or maybe you want to play some extended games on your own, take this. You can hop and create your own games, understanding that you'll have to add more because these games are a little bit quicker and they're made to have this there's not feedback between you and me as much. So know that these are a basis of simple rules that you can use. Alright, so this is that randomization table I was talking about. You can make your own version of this by just creating a circle, blocking it off how you want to, and then you can fill it in with the things that I put in there, or you can create your own if you want to have some different elements. Remember, this is your story as well. So here's an example character sheet for our character Example. If you're coming in, make your character sheet look something like this. You're going to have hit points up in the right, and then you're going to have your character name, what your weapon is, and then start recording what happens to you in this story. So we can go back and look at our previous journeys. And here is a template that you can print off and download, or download and print off, or you can actually use it as a basis in creating your own. Yesterday we had an opportunity to scrawl our thoughts and sketch the sights for a spell. We ended right before you got to the village. We saw a bunch of fantastical creatures. I attempted to draw some creatures online with you. I was having a lot of issues with the programming, so my lines were crazy, but I drew a banana fish, a flying snake, and a serpentine chicken. So I drew some fun stuff. I'm hoping you all drew some cool stuff at home. But let's hop back into our story. You were arriving at the village when we left off. You're flying on an airship. an airship captained by a young woman named Remy. Remy is currently sporting green hair that is in a very tall mohawk, and she's fiddling with her strange multicolored cube. When you get close to the village, you can see in the mountains behind that there's a pulse of energy that comes out and washes over the village, and as it does, it also hits your airship. And when it does, you see a bubble of light kind of appear around you, seeming to allow it to dissipate just across you. But Remy kind of shakes a little bit, and she looks down and she's like, "Ah, I believe I understand what this is. This is actually a puzzle of some kind. It's a cube with these little squares that can be rotated, and they're multicolored. I think that you are supposed to get all of the sides to be the same. I should take the decorations down. This ship is too decorative." And her pallor seems to be very pale, and her face is drooping as she speaks. Maybe you approach her, maybe you reach out a hand, maybe you just stand in shock for a moment. But that bubble of light that was around you kind of extends outward and then pops around Remy as well. And you're going to see her shake her head and looking back. What just happened? What? I feel very strange. What happened? Looking at you with confusion, you think that maybe Remy might have been affected by the curse that affects the town. I think you saved me, so whatever you did, thank you. Let's get you down in that town, and I'm gonna fly a little bit further away from here until you're ready. I can land outside of town. And Remy is going to take her ship down into the hills, just outside of the village. She will land and let the drawbridge down, allowing you to leave. Alright, do come back in one piece, okay? And let me know if you need me to pick you up. I'm gonna stay here and try to make sense of what happened. And Remy stays on the ship. You entered the village. It's quiet. It seems almost as a ghost town. You don't hear anything except for deeper in the town. You think you might hear a murmur, the sound of many people talking. It unsettles you as you see these bright colors are being covered up by seemingly random things that can be found around the town. Sometimes it's dirt, sometimes it's just barrels kind of nailed to the walls. If you go to the center of town, which appears to be the only place where there's anything happening, you see a mass of people gathered, just standing there. They're all around something. They're dipping something in, and then people are leaving. They're walking away. You notice that everyone is wearing gray, and finally, someone is going to approach you. Oh, hello. They're covered in gray, freshly dyed clothing. Are you here to change your... They look you up and down at your clothing that you may have bought from the tailor in an earlier episode. Are you here to change your clothing to something less offensive? We recently discovered that many of the colors in town are offensive. We are changing them so they are not offensive to others. Would you like to dye your clothing? They stare at you blankly. Maybe a little bit of drool. What do? Do you dye the clothing, or do you resist? Do you leave? What is your choice here? You see that people are using that gray dye to also paint nearby houses. But there's a commotion after a moment. You hear, "Oh no, they did a thing that we didn't want them to." And you see someone small run away, creating a red streak of paint all along a wall. It appears to be some children. They don't seem to be affected by whatever is happening to the townspeople, who are doing nothing but dyeing their clothes gray and talking in dull voices. What do you choose? Do you dye your clothing and try to get information from the townsfolk? Or do you speak to the children who are running around instead? If you choose to speak with any of the adults in town, the people who are dyeing their clothing, they are going to tell you that once one of them visited the temple in the hills, they came back with the word that they must change their ways, and that true peace and happiness will come through humble and modest living. Thus, they've been throwing out all of their art, their stories, their pieces of furniture, and changing everything to a gray, homogeneous mass. You think you know what the source of this curse is. Now, if you spoke with the children, you will have to follow them into an alley somewhere near the town square, where you will find them hiding. They will seem quite scared of you at first, but realize quickly that you are not like the adults in town. Hey, you're not all boring. Why aren't you acting like that? They say. Do you reassure the children? Do you let them know that they're okay? How do you interact with them here? One of the adults went way out to the old ruined temple. Yeah, the one in the mountains. When they came back, they started making everyone turn their clothes gray. They don't let any music play. They don't let anything happen anymore. We're not even allowed to play games. We've had to make a fort outside of town where they won't come because, I don't know, they're too bored. They all just stay here dyeing their clothes. Is there anything you can do to fix this? It was your ship that you flew in, right? That was an airship? Do you tell the children that you will help? Do you say, nah, that's not my problem, kid, and move along? Or do you perhaps even give them a gift, something to console them during this time? You've had a moment to gather some things in your travels. Do you want to gift one of those now? Perhaps ease the mind of these troubled kids. Their adults, their parents have seemed to abandon them for an interest in only gray clothing. Make your decision on how you will deal with the children, what you will do with them, if anything. And mark in your character sheet your interaction with this town. Did you spend time with the adults? Did you dye your clothing gray and gather the information you needed? Or did you talk to the children and get the information that you needed from them? You go back to Remy, who is waiting in her airship. It's time for you to set off to the temple, now that you know its location. You take off, and you see that the area around this place seems to be covered in clouds, as if the sun is almost entirely hidden, though you can clearly see it in the sky. Finally, you see a small ruin nestled in the rocks. Make sure you have your randomization tools like your dice and your tables ready, because we are going to be doing some rolling very soon. You land outside the temple. It is old and overgrown. Vines are dried and covering most of it. You feel the air is still as you get closer. You are unsure of this place, and it puts the hair on the back of your head, or on the back of your neck, standing on edge. But, nevertheless, you must enter. As you do, you see there's a system of mirrors, and those system of mirrors bring sunlight in from the outside, so you can actually see in this first chamber. The light spreads out, and there are large columns with intricate tales carved into them. You don't have a lot of time to look, but you might find yourself caught up in these stories and the pieces of art that are all around you. Do you take your time here? Do you perhaps use a piece of paper and graphite or ink to create an impression of these things? You may choose. It is not long before you arrive in an area where the hall splits in two. The left bears the universal marking of life, while the right bears the universal marking of death. You must choose one of these two hallways to travel down. You can see that art is on the wall either way. In either hall there is a mural, though the coloring and content seems to be different. I will give you a moment to choose which hallway you pass down, and then we will start with the left. If you are watching at home on your own time, you can pause here for a moment and then continue. A moment longer to decide. And we shall continue. The left hall is the one bearing the marking of life. There is a mural of bright pastel colors marked on the wall to your left. It depicts a tale of life. You see life beginning, you see life growing, children being raised by parents, structures being built, things being passed down to coming generations. It's a beautiful tale, and it makes you feel warm and hopeful as you see that life is a truly beautiful thing. You pass down the hallway, enjoying this mural, and a sense of peace enters you. Now, for anyone who went down the right hallway. The right hallway also has a mural. As I said before, it is on the right side. The colors are very different. They are dark, they are earth tones, there are very many reds and blacks. And this story is not one of life. Of course, the marking of death denotes that it will be related to that. And it is. It is the story of an individual passing into the afterlife and crossing the river Styx, entering Hades, and the trials that they must face there. It is not an inspiring tale, and it gives you goosebumps along your arms as you read and see these legends of what the afterlife is like, and apparently this culture. You feel a resolve, though, as you walk through. Though it talks about death, and though it talks about the afterlife in a way that might frighten you, you feel a resolve to push that off as long as you can, and to save others from that. When you leave your hallway, whichever one, you feel different. Let me tell you exactly how. If you entered the left hallway, you have been given the blessing of life. You now have +5 total hit points. So if you were at 20, which you all would be, you now have 25 hit points. That is if you went down the left hallway. If you went down the right hallway, you have been given a gift of destruction. You feel your muscles harden. You feel your energy rise. And you now have a bonus in combat. You get an extra roll or toss or a bonus number added to your combat. Whenever you are doing anything related to combat, you get the bonus. But will there be any ill side effects that occur? You'll have to find out. These two hallways do rejoin after a moment. And you find yourself in a wooden hallway, a wooden tunnel that goes underneath what you thought was the main part of the temple. Dust is falling from the beams, and as you move forward, maybe you step back at the last second, maybe you catch it just in time, but an axe is mounted in the center of the ceiling, swinging back and forth. This is obviously a trap designed to prevent people from entering this area. You are going to have to decide how you will get past this trap. I will first show you your choices, and then show you the difficulty and results of those. So do try not to make it too easy for yourself and cheat. Decide first, which will you do? Will you dash across trying to get past the axe? Will you disarm the trap, attempting to break the mechanism that is allowing it to swing back and forth? Didn't Mr. Dorian make a pendulum in one of his lessons? You could disarm it, or finally you could attempt to break the axe by using one of your weapons, or perhaps a rock or something that you can find nearby. I will give you a moment to decide how you will proceed. Will you dash across, disarm the trap, or break it? The axe is very large and shiny. Seems heavy as it swings across, cutting the air. If you're watching at home on your own time, remember you can pause here, but I hope you have your decision. You need to dash, disarm, or break it. Of course, if you come up with something that I didn't think of, maybe you can throw that in and you can determine what the difficulty is. All right, let's check it out. There's that axe, still swinging. All right, here's the difficulty and the result of your action. So if you chose to dash, this is actually a hard action. If you chose to disarm, this is a medium difficulty on action. It appears a little bit easier to stop this device than it is to dash past it. And finally, you could attempt to break it, but this is very hard. It is a massive axe moving quickly and with a mechanism. So you made your choice on the previous screen, now you must stick with it. Do you attempt to dash across? Do you attempt to disarm it? Or do you attempt to break it? If you succeed in dashing across, you are on the other side, but you do not get any reward. If you fail, you will lose 10 hit points. On a disarm, if you fail, you will lose 7 hit points, but if you succeed, you can take that giant axe with you. Once you disarm the mechanism, you can dismount it and take it with you. So you may now mark a giant axe in your inventory. If you are just coming in on this as your first session, that will be very useful. You now have a weapon. And finally, if you break it, if you fail, you're only going to lose 5 hit points. But if you succeed, you have a piece of a giant axe and a cool story. But unfortunately, if you fail, your weapon also breaks. So if you had a magical weapon or a special weapon you just bought and you attempted to use it to break a giant swinging axe, well, it is now broken. All right, mark the results of what happened to you. How'd you get past the trap? Did you get past it with a wound? Because if you fail, you do get past it, but you take some damage as you do. There's that axe swinging one more time. You move further and deeper into the tunnel. The light is dimming. The sunlight that was traveling in through the mirrors is no longer there. As you walk forward, you hear the ground shift in front of you, as if it has quickly separated. A lava pit is now before you. Yet another challenge. How will you get across this one? Are you going to jump across, getting a running start and just attempting to leap? Are you going to find something to make a bridge? Maybe there's a statue somewhere back there, or some rocks that you could lean across. Are you going to use magic to attempt to freeze it and just walk right over? Or just ask it nicely to close? How do you proceed? The lava pit is before you. There is no way around it. It is blocking the whole path. I'm going to check the comments, see if anyone has said hi yet. I don't see anyone, so my feelings are deeply hurt. I apologize. I'm just kidding. They're not hurt at all. But if you are in a watch party and you're reaching out to me and trying to get me to comment back to you and I'm not responding, that's because I don't see comments in a watch party. So make sure to come to our page directly and watch it if you want to interact. Alright, are you jumping across, finding something to make a bridge, using magic to freeze it, or asking it nicely to close? Make your decisions, think them through. What makes the most sense for your character? You don't always have to think in terms of what is the most likely to succeed. Sometimes your character might do something that's not the best decision, but it makes sense for their character. Keep that in mind. Alright, if you're watching at home on your own time, go ahead and pause it if you haven't made your decision, because we are going to move on to our difficulty and to our results. So, make your decision now. Don't change it once you see the difficulty. Alright, here are the results and the difficulty. To jump across is hard. To go find something to make a bridge is actually medium. There's been plenty of stuff that we've seen so far. To use magic to freeze it is very hard. This is lava. It is incredibly hot, and though magic is powerful, it's still lava. So that's very, very hard. And then finally, you can ask it nicely to close. This is very easy. We'll see how that plays out in a moment. All right, make your rolls. Remember that if you fail one of these, like if you try to freeze or make a bridge, if you try to freeze it or ask it nicely to close and those don't work, you can always try one of the other options because you're still on the other side. If you try to cross the bridge and you fail, then you'll have to continue crossing. But let's work through from top to bottom. If you jump across and you fail, you lose 5 HP. You dunk your foot in the lava and it burns straight through your boot and probably singes your skin pretty badly. You're glad that you have kind of an aura of protection around you because you think that you could have been burned a lot worse. If you go and find something to make a bridge, you fail. If you fail as you're crossing, you're only going to lose 2 HP because you are able to kind of hold yourself up on the bridge. If you use magic to freeze it, as I said, this is very hard, but if you fail, you can just continue on and try one of the other options. This is one of the few cases where you get that. And then finally, asking it nicely to close. We'll play that one out in a moment, because I doubt a lot of you chose that, but maybe you did. Maybe you're the wild type. Alright, roll your results, and if you ask it nicely to close, then here's your conversation. What? You hear a voice come out from the lava pit. Am I not supposed to be here? I thought I was. Yeah, I just checked my schedule. I'm supposed to be here. I'm sorry. I'm in your way, huh? Oh no, I don't think I can just close. Well, okay. Maybe. Do you have any water? I really want some rocks to play with, and I was thinking about making some, but I don't have any water. If you just pour a little bit of water in, I'll close up and I'll let you by. Just don't tell anyone that I did. Just say you jumped across and it was really cool. Do you have any water? You hear the voice say. What do? You can roll and just attempt to convince him. That will get to this point where he will offer water as a trade. If you take water and dump it in, some igneous masses will begin to form. You're going to see these little rocks, and a little smiley face will appear for a moment before it closes and allows you to pass by without any issue. If you somehow fail your very easy roll, which is technically probably, or it is statistically possible for you to fail. If you fail, he's going to say, I'll get in a lot of trouble. Just try to jump across or something, or make a bridge. I've seen people do that before. That works generally pretty well. Just don't make it out of wood. Yeah, wood burns. Uh-huh. Alright, so what did you choose and what were the results? Did you jump across? Did you find something to make a bridge? Did you attempt to use magic to freeze it? Did that work? Or did you ask it nicely to close? Mark the results in your character sheet. Make sure you don't forget what happened. As you leave the hallway with the lava pit, you feel cold air rushing from the door to your right. You believe you have arrived at the very center or the heart of the temple, as things are very wide and open here. The air is cold, and though your hair was already standing on end at the back of your neck, and you already had goosebumps, those feelings intensify. Your goosebumps have goosebumps. The air is still. Your footsteps echo. You enter the next room. Dark energy fills it, creeping from the shadows, and in the very, very center of this room lays a pedestal. Swirling around it are all sorts of dark, nebulous masses, purple and black and gray, just shifting around. Your bubble, your dome around you, seems to continue to protect you. though it is starting to break just a little bit. It's starting to crack. You know now, standing in this room, that anyone else would be fully succumbed to this curse. You, however, are still standing. You feel compelled to move forward. You need to destroy this curse, but how? No one told you. What do you do? Do you attack the podium? Destroy it? Do you attempt to use your magic to nullify the evil? Do you absorb it into yourself to conquer it with your energy, with your sanctuary that surrounds you? How does your hero complete this quest? It is not easy, but it is something that only you can do. It is not painless, and it is not without discomfort that you are able to do this, but you walk forward, or perhaps you run, and you approach the podium. Whether you destroy it, attempt to absorb it, or nullify it with your magic, the energy responds violently, swirling around, breaking columns and lashing out towards you, perhaps leaving a cut across your leg or your shoulder. But then it starts to ripple and weaken until it ruptures, and a shockwave sends you flying back against the wall. There's a burst of light, and everything is taken from your vision. You are blinded. And then you are outside of the temple. But the overgrowth is no longer dead. It's beginning to bloom. Flowers are rising out of it, their petals extending. A variety of colors. Are they mostly purple? Blue? Are they something else? You can hear birds singing now. And you make your way back to Remy, who has put all of her decorations back up on the ship. You did it! Well, that's good. And no volcanoes. Alright. Should I take you back into town? You hop on the airship and fly back toward the town, leaving the rocky outcropping behind. You can see that the sky is brighter. The life seems to have returned to this land. Where it was a dull, gray version of itself, it is now vibrant once again. You have succeeded, it seems, in removing the curse from the land. But are the villagers still affected? Have they recovered fully? As you get back to the village, you hear a doof, 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 a thumping. And it continues, and it gets louder the closer that you get to the village. What could possibly have befallen this town now? When you get back, the town is filled with revelry. People are dancing in the streets. The children are hugging their parents who are swinging them in the air. People are taking their gray clothing and they're wiping all of the dye off. They're just getting bright dyes and pouring them on themselves and on their clothing, freshening up the town. People are painting the walls. There are musicians and minstrels in the middle of the town just playing their instruments, and singers are belting out tunes to songs that you're pretty sure they're making up at the moment. When the person who greeted you before sees you, they're gonna run up. Oh my goodness, thank you so much! I remember talking to you, and that's all I remember, and then now we're here! We're alive again! Oh, thank you! They're gonna come up and give you a very big hug. Maybe your character pushes them off right away. Maybe your character dodges out of the way. Maybe your character accepts it. That's up to you to decide. But the town is absolutely ecstatic. They are bringing out food. They are bringing out stuff for a festival. They're just throwing a party right now. And you have a choice. You may stay here with them and celebrate. You may eat some food. You may drink their juices and milk and all the honey teas that they have. Or you can continue on. It is totally up to you. Does your character enjoy the time with the people that they saved? Or do they continue back to the airship, knowing that there are many others in peril? What do you choose? If you decide to stay, there are games of skill where you're maybe throwing daggers at a target, seeing who's the best. Do you want to compete and see if you can out-throw any of the townspeople? What is your choice here? Do you perhaps work in the challenge of strength, lifting and throwing boulders, or cabers, which are giant logs? Yes, this is a thing that real people actually do. They throw giant logs. I believe it's a Scottish tradition. Do you participate in that? Create your own challenges for that. Maybe face off against someone who's very easy, and then do you face the champion who's very hard? Can you become the champion in any of the games? Perhaps the game of skill, throwing daggers. Perhaps a game of strength, throwing or tossing boulders or logs. Maybe you want to participate in one of the ball shuffle games and try to out-hustle the hustlers on the street. Maybe you want to demonstrate your magic and hold classes. How do you celebrate here? I will leave it here for a moment longer, and then we will continue on for once you have left the town, or those who decided to leave the town right away. Enjoy your celebration, because that was hard-earned, and they will become harder in the future. Finally, you get back onto your ship and you take off, leaving the island behind. Maybe this was right after, maybe you left the town to do its celebration, or maybe it was after a long day of celebrating. But you see that peace has returned. A rainbow passes over. You can see many islands in the distance. You can see the land that you came from just below, remembering this island kind of orbits around. And then you hear Remy say, "Oh, I got a message." And she pulls something out of a little mailbox that's in the center of the ship. Pulls it out and says, "Okay, it's from a how do you say this? A Heracles?" Yeah, so there's this Heracles guy. They reached out. All right, they said their realm is full of monsters. Okay, they've got a lot of things to do. Okay, yeah, so this Heracles guy is saying that he's got a bunch of stuff for us to handle that we could take half. He's got about 6 things for us to do. I think we might head there. She is going to then hand you what she read the message off of. It's a large stone tablet that appears to have indentations in a sort of text that look like they might have been drawn by like a fingernail, just digging into the stone. But you read the message and it says, "Hi, my name is Heracles. My land has recently become plagued with monsters once again. There are many tasks for me to fill, and I know there are heroes that will come. A beast flew by, and after this, everything went wrong. If you could handle at least half of these, I've outlined the 6 tasks I need your help with. Will you come? Please, I can only do so much. Signed, Heracles." Remy's looking at you. Should I set the course? Perhaps you give a nod, perhaps an enthusiastic yes, perhaps you shrug and sigh as you go and say whatever. But the course is set. Remy shifts the ship, and you begin to push off through the Dungeonverse, deeper into the Sky Islands and into the clouds, heading off to find this Heracles, heading off to help him in his tasks. And that will end our story for today. What will happen next time? Where will you go? What will you do? It is all up to you. Thank you for playing today. If you are just joining, make sure to hop on newminds.tv and you can find the earlier episodes where you can determine what happened to your character before they got here. Alright, that's it for our story. Make sure to write it down, tell us what happened. Tell yourself what happened. Keep this in a journal. Make sure you record it because you will forget more than you think. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our episode of Into the Dungeon Verse today. Thank you for being here and participating in our story. I enjoy getting to share these stories with you, and I love continuing to develop this program and helping it grow and having it grow and continuing to add more. I hope you found the rules, the difficulties being thrown in there to be a little bit easier for you to follow along. I hope that all of that came as it's something to make it easier for you. So I hope you're enjoying the game. Remember that you can play this game at home. You can create your own rules to go with it. You can create your own stories. All you need to do to be a game runner like me is to have a story to tell and people who want to listen to it. That's also a key part, is you have people who want to listen to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to some real inspired learning for all. Remember to always pursue your passion until it becomes your talent. This has been Into the Dungeonverse with Mr. Adam. Up next is Round the World with Mr. Walter. Ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you on the next quest. You have a fantastic day and an even better weekend.